I've said this before and I'll say it again. Sometimes it pays to suspend judgment on a story until you have all the facts, or at least some more facts. Wait a couple of days. Don't just decide to believe reports because they confirm your pre-existing biases. I mean, it's not like we haven't had any recent examples of why it's not a good idea to jump the gun. And so to the story of Jussie Smollett and the ever-changing narrative, which is changing so fast by the time I upload this video, the information will probably be out of date. But let's piece together the evidence of this case as best we can and try to separate fact from fiction. So let's start with the original police report of the incident because this is the first official version of what happened. The incident took place around 2 a.m. on January 29th and the responding officers arrived at Smollett's apartment at 2:42 a.m. So first, let's look at the description of the alleged attackers. Victim related to responding officers that as he was walking to his residence, two unknown males approached him, obviously a transphobe for assuming their gender, and gained his attention by saying verbatim, "Empire, redacted, redacted." Victim related that he is an actor on the TV show Empire, and responding officers know those terms said to him to be racial and homophobic slurs. The primary aggressor was wearing a black mask concealing any facial features, and both offenders were dressed in black, proceeding to batter the victim about the face with their hands and pouring an unknown chemical substance onto him, staining his clothing. The victim does not remember any other distinguishing features of the offender or in which direction they fled. Okay, so here's what was not said but has been reported elsewhere and picked up and repeated by others. First, that the two offenders wore MAGA caps. That appears to be fabricated. There's no record of Smollett saying that and it wasn't included in the original police interview. Second, that the offenders were white. Clearly this was not mentioned in Smollett's original statement, but TMZ did report it on the date the incident occurred, citing sources directly connected to Jussie. Then on February 15th, TMZ followed up with, quote, "When we first reported the details of the story, including Jussie saying the two men were white, we were told twice after we posted it accurately reflected Jussie's version of events. We also spoke with our Jussie sources Friday and they reaffirmed he had said that day the men were white." TMZ also reported Smollett had a fractured rib. Smollett later said he only had a bruised rib. So who are these sources, and did they, just like a lot of other people, assume that the assailants were white? And why would they assume that? Well, probably because of the extra detail that Smollett did not include in the original police report, but that surfaced the same day, that the assailants allegedly said, "This MAGA country." But then on the ABC News interview, he changed that slightly to "This MAGA country N-word."
This MAGA country.
And that's the problem with this story. Extra details keep being added or changed. Let's have a listen to Smollett's version of events.
I went to the subway and got the order. During that time, I texted my manager thinking that he was still in Australia because he was on an Australian tour with one of his other clients. And I said, "Yo, call me when you can." He called me immediately. And while he was on the phone, I heard, as I was crossing the intersection, I heard Empire. And I don't answer to Empire. My name ain't Empire. And I didn't answer. I kept walking, and then I heard Empire. So I turned around and I said, "The did you just say to me?" And I see the attacker masked, and he said, "This MAGA country," punches me right in the face. So I punched his ass back. And then we started tussling. You know, it was very icy. And we ended up tussling by the stairs. Fighting. There was a second person involved who was kicking me in my back. And then it just stopped. And they ran off. And I saw where they ran. And the phone was in my pocket, but it had fallen out. And it was sitting there. And my manager was still on the phone. So I picked up the phone and I said, "Brandon," and he's like, "What's going on?" And I said, "I was just jumped." And then I look down and I see that there's a rope around my neck.
So Smollett said that he turned and saw the attacker, not attackers plural, but attacker, and that after tussling with him, a second assailant was kicking him in the back. That's at odds with the original report, which stated that two unknown males approached him. Both offenders were dressed in black, proceeding to batter the victim about the face with their hands. Nothing about kicking. He said he punched the first assailant back. That wasn't in the police report. He also said they ran off and he saw where they ran. But in the initial report, he said he did not remember the direction in which they fled. He also said after it was over, he looked down and saw a rope around his neck. But he didn't see a rope as the men approached him, and he didn't mention anyone trying to put a rope around his neck during the scuffle. Now, I would have thought that's something you might notice. Or did the second assailant just slip it over his head while he was taking a break from kicking him in the back? And what is the significance of the rope? Well, according to the police report, we learned that a week prior to the attack, Smollett received some hate mail. So the hate mail shows a stick figure being hanged from a tree and the word MAGA is written on the envelope. And of course, Smollett's alleged attackers yelled MAGA country and put a rope around his neck. And so Smollett thinks this is related.
Do you think there's a link between the letter and the attack? And you did mention it to the police right away about the letter.
Absolutely. Just because on the letter it had a stick figure hanging from a tree with a gun pointing towards it, with the words that said, Smollett, Jussie, you will die, black. There was no address, but the return address said in big red, like caps, MAGA. Did I make that up too?
Apparently the FBI is still investigating the mail incident. Now, why would a MAGA supporter send hate mail to Smollett? Well, perhaps it's because Smollett is very vocal about his views of the president, referring to Trump's white-hooded cohorts, whoever they are, I'm guessing that's a Klan reference, and anyone that supports them as a national disgrace, and using a racial slur, although I think cracker would have been more appropriate, unless Trump is now identifying as black. Oh, incidentally, Smollett's Twitter history has been erased back to the date of the alleged attack. Interesting. There's also the issue of Smollett's phone records. Initially, Smollett refused to hand over his phone, then he handed over heavily redacted phone records, which the police said were not sufficient. Here's Smollett's explanation.
Which they didn't originally ask for my phone records. They asked for my phone. They wanted me to give my phone to the tech for 3 to 4 hours. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to do that.
Why?
Because I have private pictures and videos and numbers, my partner's number, my family's number, my castmates' number, my friends' numbers, my private emails, my private songs, my private voice memos. I don't know what that's going to be to hand over my phone for. And honestly, by then, inaccurate, false statements had already been put out there.
Well, why not correct those false statements with the truth? Now, the police have been able to track Smollett's movements on the night from video footage, except for 60 seconds when the incident took place. There was a camera in the area, but it was facing in the opposite direction of the attack. However, from this grainy photo, Smollett has no doubt that these are his attackers. Here he is again.
The police have gone through a lot of video, and they were able to capture an image of 2 people of interest. Have you seen that image, and do you believe that they could possibly be the attackers?
I do.
What is it about their size, or why do you feel that they could possibly be?
Because I was there. For me, when that was released, I was like, okay, we're getting somewhere. I don't have any doubt in my mind that that's them. Never did.
Now, on Wednesday, the police arrested 2 Nigerian-born brothers, and by Friday, the police said they were being treated as potential suspects and that detectives had probable cause that they may have been involved in an alleged crime. Police did not say at the time precisely what the brothers were accused of or what the alleged crime might have been. Now, I was going to go into the background of these guys, but I'll save you the trouble because as I was putting this together, they were released without charges. The short story is that they knew Smollett. One of them had been an extra in Smollett's show Empire. And here's some more info from Inside Edition.
There are other intriguing connections between Smollett and the brothers. Inside Edition found this video of Abel working out to a Jussie Smollett song. He even tagged Jussie on Instagram, Jussie Smollett. Ha ha, I love you. And look, this video shows one of the brothers doing handstands on a treadmill in the gym in Jussie Smollett's apartment building.
Now, I would submit to you, if these guys were going to beat the crap out of Smollett, they could have done so easily, and I doubt they would have fled the scene because Smollett fought back. I mean, look at the size of them. According to reports, the brothers flew out to Nigeria the day after Smollett's attack. They then flew back on Wednesday the 13th of February, and the police picked them up from O'Hare Airport and arrested them. They searched their home on Thursday and, as mentioned before, considered them suspects on Friday morning, but had released them as of Friday night, with the police noting, due to new evidence as a result of today's interrogations, the individuals questioned by police in the Empire case have now been released without charging, and detectives have additional investigative work to complete. New evidence obtained from who, I wonder? Well, the lawyer representing the two men spoke Friday night after their release, saying she and the men gave police new evidence in the investigation. So I wonder what further work the detectives need to complete exactly. But wait, there's more. Just prior to this announcement, attorney Michael Monaco appeared on Ro Khan's radio program on WGN to announce that Smollett had hired the high-powered defense attorney to represent him. Monaco is the same attorney who is representing President Trump's former personal attorney, Michael Cohen. So the initial suspects have been released without charges, there is new evidence to be investigated, and Gay Tupac has lawyered up with one of the highest profile lawyers in the country. I'll let you connect the dots. Remember, the police have maintained up until Friday that media reports about the Empire incident being a hoax are unconfirmed by case detectives. Superintendent Eddie Johnson has contacted ABC7 Chicago to state on the record that we have no evidence to support their reporting and their supposed CPD sources are uninformed and inaccurate. And rumours that Smollett was to be written out of the show Empire were described as patently ridiculous, according to Empire producer 20th Century Fox. He remains a core player on this very successful series, and we continue to stand behind him. Well, I'm sure Gay Tupac appreciates that. So let's summarise. Two men armed with bleach and a rope were walking around outside Jussie Smollett's apartment building at 2 a.m. in below freezing temperatures and just happened to recognise him as he was on his way back from Subway and attacked him. Now that is some coincidence. And so, as I said at the beginning, it pays to wait and find out the facts before jumping to conclusions. And if it does turn out that Smollett has been telling fibs, there's going to be an awful lot of egg on some very important faces. But I'll save that for the inevitable next video when we have some more information. Until then, I'm off to Subway to get myself a Jussie, the most resilient sandwich on the market. I'll see you next time.